Captain's log. Curious log. Curious log? Curious log. March 8th, 2016. All right, so the season 6 trailer of Game of Thrones has dropped, and I am a huge fan of Game of Thrones, so I had to talk about it. First things first, we are past the books. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. Obviously, there are certain things that they can draw on from within the books, but for the most part, we're really not going to know what's happening, and this is so exciting. For the first time in the history of this TV show, no one knows. You're not going to be somebody who is sat down by your friends and made to watch the Red Wedding on camera if you've never read the books. Now, before I go much further, obviously this trailer is dealing with a lot of stuff that happened in the last season and previous seasons of the show. So please, if you care about spoilers, just don't watch any further, because there's some spoilery stuff in this trailer. And I'm going to speculate a little bit, so there's that too. So again, just be prepared. All right, so first things first, Jon is lying on the ground, of course, where we saw him at the end of season 5. We hear someone say he's gone. So very much driving home like, all right, Jon's dead. But I'm definitely in the camp that I think they're going to bring him back to life. And I think a lot of the stuff in this trailer points toward that. So I'm very excited. We see Jaime and Cersei kind of rekindling their whatever the heck, which is just never fun. See a brief clip of Ramsay Bolton. We see the Red Priestess. She's very upset that she was wrong. I mean, I think a lot of us knew that she was kind of BSing her way through a lot of what she said, but we've also seen her do some pretty cool stuff. So it'll be fun to see kind of where that goes with her. We see Jorah, the bandage on his hand, which of course calls back to some stuff that happened to him in the previous season. We see Dany completely destitute and walking in what looks just like a max exodus. I'm assuming everyone has emptied from her city and they're all homeless, and there's some sort of voiceover, I forget exactly what it says, about them all being poor, but they have the power to overthrow nations or something like that. We see what I believe is a funeral on like a cliffside. It's sort of hard to tell, but everyone looks like they're wearing black, and it just kind of has the look of a funeral. Obviously, it could be something else. We see a brief shot of Sansa and Tyrion saying, "You're in the great game now, and the great game is terrifying," which is all very ominous. And we have Cersei facing off against some guys and choosing violence. And then we get to the section where I think the most amount of quick things that you might miss in the trailer. There's a bunch of quick cuts that start happening. There's a couple of, I think, kind of important things that we see there. We see Tommen walking with his crown on, so we know that he is still in power, at least at the beginning. Because you never know what's going to happen with everything that happened with his mom. We don't know how much of a time jump there is here. At least I haven't heard them talk about it. They could have. We see Arya getting smacked around. Poor girl just got turned blind, and she is getting smacked in the face. That is just kick her while she's down. And she looked like she was in the middle of some sort of like bluish wood, which I think is kind of important coming up here. We see the Red Priestess undressing herself, which, as we know from previous times that she has done this, that she's probably going to do some sort of magic, and we have seen her bring people back to life. We then immediately following that see someone with their hand on Jon Snow's eyes, like they're like putting it down on his eyes, presumably something to the effect of closing someone's eyes like we see in movies and TV all the time. But that being right after that Red Priestess just starting to take off her clothing to perform whatever ritual, again, sort of suggests to me that they're going to be bringing him back from the dead. We see Arya's friend, who I can't remember. Actually, I was going to say I can't remember her name. I think that's because she doesn't have a name. Ha! We see her running through presumably the same blue wood. It's the same lighting, definitely a nighttime snowy wood. So maybe they have fled together. Maybe there's some sort of attack and they have to leave. But we have also seen a picture of Arya with her gray blind eyes appear to be begging, I think. One of the promotional images that was released had her holding a bowl. So it could be a little bit later on in the season, doesn't necessarily mean it's in the opening. And we see Bran standing next to a White Walker. I think pretty much everybody believes that that will definitely be in some sort of vision because he's definitely had those before. But that's still cool. He looks a lot older. Obviously, we haven't seen him for an entire season, so that's pretty exciting. And then we have my favorite bit, just more stuff pointing to the fact that my bro, Jon Snow, cannot be dead. I refuse to allow that to happen. We have, I've never been much of a fighter. Apologies for what you're about to see. The unsheathing of a sword. And during that unsheathing, when it's still on the close-up, we actually have Jon's face kind of in the foreground. You can see his very distinct profile, obviously laying on a table. Then it cuts out to a slightly wider shot, and we have Jon laying down on appears to what be his head propped up against Ghost, which is definitely different than where we saw somebody closing his eyes earlier in the trailer. So I think this is a lot of stuff pointing to Jon coming back, or at least them trying to attempt to bring him back. Maybe they bring him back and it goes wrong, but there's just too many things pointing toward this at this point that I would be really surprised if they don't at least try. Overall, it was a very exciting trailer, lots of different things. I'm sure there are things that I missed. If you guys saw something that maybe I missed that you're like, oh, Lauren, why aren't you talking about this? Put it down in the comments below. I've been really trying to check comments on the videos on here, and I try to respond to most people if they have a direct question for me. So please start a dialogue. Tweet me on Twitter at @TheCuriousLow, and we can continue talking about this. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Hopefully I can continue to kind of cover Game of Thrones and bring a little bit more fantasy onto Geekvolution, but we will see going forward. Let me know if you guys want to see that. Maybe give it a thumbs up. Oh yeah, all right. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm so dumb. All right, bye everybody.